To the real owner of this house, my mother. That is what my husband said at our housewarming, standing in my living room with a champagne flute in his hand, pointing across the room like he was presenting a game show prize. For a second, I thought I had misheard him. The chatter around us dipped. His cousins laughed first. His mother pressed her hand to her chest, like a queen being honored on a balcony. Someone yelled, "Okay, Ma!" and the room broke into claps and whistles. I stood beside him, holding my own glass, my smile frozen so hard my cheeks throbbed. He did not even look at me. He clinked his glass against his mother's and said, "Would not be here without you, Ma. You know this your house." Your house, not ours, not mine. Not yours. My ears rang. The chandelier lights blurred. I could feel the hardwood floor under my heels and, at the same time, it felt like the ground was gone. People started chanting, "Speech! Speech!" His mother laughed and fanned herself with a paper napkin, soaking it all in. My best friend, Rena, caught my eyes from across the room. Her face had the same expression I felt on mine inside. Did he really just say that? Oh, he did. Before that sentence landed, there were years of smaller cuts you would need to see to understand why I did not snatch the glass out of his hand and pour it over his head. Why I did not scream or cry or walk out of my own housewarming. Before I tell you what I said back to him in that room, and how the real owner of this house turned into his mother standing in my foyer with a suitcase and a 30-day notice in her hand, let me know in the comments where you are listening from. And if anyone has ever tried to use your own hard work to crown themselves, hit that like button and subscribe. It helps YouTube recommend my revenge stories and family stories to other people, because this is a story about property, paperwork, and a wife who decided she was done being treated like the tenant in a home she bought. My name is Tasha. I am 32 years old, a black woman from New Orleans living just outside Houston, and buying a house was the one dream I did not let anybody touch. Or at least, that is what I thought. I grew up in apartments where the walls were thin enough to hear your neighbors argue and the roaches came out if you dropped one crumb. My mother did the best she could on a teacher's aide salary. We moved every few years when the rent went up or a landlord decided they wanted to sell. Boxes were my childhood furniture. I remember being 8 years old, sitting on a stack of those boxes in another new living room, watching my mother cry over a letter on the table. "Why can't we just get a house?" I asked her, swinging my legs. She wiped her face and said, "Because, baby, houses cost down payments and good credit. I have love and past due notices." My child brain translated that into a private vow. "Okay then. When I grow up, I will get the other things, the down payment, the good credit, the key that does not depend on somebody else's mood." I did not have a lot of examples, but I had the internet and a stubborn streak that could bend metal. By 19, I knew what a FICO score was and how fast one late payment could drag it down. I got my first credit card and treated it like a loaded gun, paying it off in full every month. I read articles about FHA loans while my classmates watched reality television. My first job out of college was at a bank call center. It was not glamorous, and it sure was not what my degree in marketing promised, but I listened when people cried about overdraft fees and repossessions. I heard what bad decisions sounded like 10 years later. I learned quietly. 2 promotions later, I moved into the mortgage department as a loan processor. I was still one of the youngest in the room and one of the few black women, but I watched people walk in with folders full of documents and walk out holding welcome home packets. I paid attention to who got approved and who got politely declined. I learned the words debt to income and loan to value and quit my second job at the mall so I could focus on building my own numbers instead of everybody else's wardrobe. When I met my husband, Marcus, I was halfway to my goal. I had a 780 credit score, a small but solid emergency fund, and a savings account labeled key money I did not touch for anything, not even when my car needed new tires. I just worked overtime and found the money somewhere else. Marcus walked into my life like the kind of man I was supposed to be grateful for. Tall, handsome, charming, with deep dimples and a laugh that made people want to lean in. He worked as a project manager at a construction company that did mostly commercial builds and townhomes. He wore steel-toe boots and high-visibility vests to work, but he cleaned up nice. We met at a friend's birthday dinner. He sat across from me and spent half the night making the whole table laugh. When he walked me to my car, he said, "So, I know we just met, but I am going to need you to clear some time in your schedule. I see date nights in your future." I rolled my eyes, but I gave him my number. From the beginning, houses were part of our conversations. "You play with numbers all day, I move dirt and build things," he said once on a date. "We are like a black HGTV episode waiting to happen." I laughed. It sounded cute. Future. Plans. He told me his dream was to build his mother a house one day. "She raised me and my brother in apartments with leaky ceilings and loud neighbors," he said. "She deserves granite countertops and a soaking tub, not no busted plastic shower." I liked that about him. I liked that he loved his mother, Miss Evelyn. She was a church lady with a sharp tongue and sharper eyeliner, always put together, always with something to say. The first time I met her, she hugged me tight and said, "You pretty. Marcus always had good taste." It was later I would learn there was another side to that sentence. "I am evaluating whether you are good enough to join my empire of one son." At first, she was sweet. She cooked for us. She sent me recipes. She told me stories about Marcus as a little boy, running around with a toy hammer, banging on the walls like he could knock them down just because they were there. Soon, though, she started making comments. "Marcus always said he was going to buy me a house before he settled down," she would say, looking around my one-bedroom like it was a waiting room. I told him, "Son, do not bring no woman in here until your mama is straight." She would laugh, like she was joking. I would laugh too, because what else do you do when someone is swinging a knife wrapped in a giggle? Marcus would kiss her cheek and say, "Ma, you know I got you." We got married 2 years after we met. Small ceremony, big emotions. My mother cried. Miss Evelyn cried, loudly. The pastor talked about leaving and cleaving. We walked down the aisle to rhythm and blues because I refused to let anybody make it stiff and formal. At the reception, Cynthia, one of Marcus's cousins, clinked a glass and yelled, "When the housewarming, though?" Everybody laughed. "When we ready," Marcus said, winking at me. "When I build my queen a castle." The thing about jokes is, they have a way of becoming expectations if you tell them often enough. Buying a house did not scare me. I understood the math. It was everything around the house that gave me pause. The people, the pride, the way "we" could turn into "him" in one sentence. After the wedding, Miss Evelyn's comments got bolder. We would be at her small rented duplex, eating Sunday dinner, and she would say things like, "When Marcus gets his house, I am going to need a room near the kitchen. I am too old to be walking up and down no stairs all night." Or, "I want white cabinets. I told Marcus, do not be putting me in no dark kitchen. I want it bright, like them Pinterest pictures you be sending me." Sometimes she would look at me and add, "And you, Tasha, I know you good with money from that little bank job. You make sure my baby do not let nobody talk him into a bad loan." My jaw would tighten around my fork. My little bank job was paying more than Marcus's salary, but you would not know that from the way his family talked. They saw his hard hat and his work boots and assumed he was the one bringing home the lion's share. They saw my office clothes and my badge and thought, "Secretary." I did not correct them. Not yet. Marcus and I rented a small, decent townhouse for the first 2 years of our marriage. I wanted to save more. He wanted space. "We are wasting money on rent," he complained one night, tossing the renewal notice on the table. "That is somebody else's mortgage we paying." "That is true," I said, looking at the numbers. "But you still have that old credit card debt, and your student loans are behind. If we apply now, your score is going to drag us into a higher rate. Let me get some things cleaned up first." He sighed. "You always talking about later. What if later never comes?" "If we rush, later might be foreclosure," I said. "Is that what you want?" He grumbled, but he let it go. I helped him set up payment plans on his debts. I showed him how to check his credit report. I pulled his scores and explained what that low 600s number meant. He listened. For a while. Then his mother got involved. "My son works hard," she said one Sunday after church, overhearing us talk about credit. He is not supposed to be held back because you scared Tasha. You all married now. You all can do it together. We are doing it together, I said, keeping my voice polite. That is why I am making sure when we buy smart. She waved her hand. I know people buying houses all the time. The Lord will provide. The Lord was going to need to fax over their pay stubs and tax returns too, but I kept that thought in my head. In year 3 of our marriage, the opportunity came faster than I expected. The bank I worked for started a program for first-time buyers in certain revitalizing neighborhoods outside Houston. Lower down payment, discounted closing costs, special rate. I pulled up the brochure at my desk and read every line 3 times. The maximum income limit was just above what I was making. If I got another raise, I would age out. When I ran the numbers, the monthly payment on a modest 3-bedroom fell into the sweet spot between stretch and stupid. I took it home, heart beating fast. Look, I said to Marcus that night, spreading the papers on the kitchen table. If we do this within the next 6 months, we can get into a house with less down and a better rate. His eyes lit up. For real? For real, I said. But there is a catch. What? I slid the printed email across to him. They are going to qualify us mostly on my income and my credit, I said. Your scores are better now, but not enough. If we apply together, we might lose the program or get a worse rate. If we apply with just me as the borrower, we can get more house for less. His face shifted. So it will be your house, he said slowly. It will be our home, I said. The bank just sees my name on the loan. We can still put both our names on the deed if we want. Legally, we can make it ours. He leaned back, arms crossed. I'm not trying to be no roommate, he said. I am the man. How it look? My wife buying me a house? I took a breath. It looks like a team using their strongest stats, I said. You know how you handle the heavy lifting when we move furniture? Because you are physically stronger? This is the same thing, just with numbers. My numbers are stronger. He rubbed his jaw. I do not like it, he muttered. Makes me feel like a charity case. I reached for his hand. You are not a charity case, I said. You are my husband. But I am not going to tank my credit to protect your ego. I have worked too hard. If you want to be on the loan, we can wait another year while your score climbs. Or we can do this now with my name and build equity together. He thought about it for a long minute. Finally, he squeezed my hand back. Fine, he said. We do it your way. But my name better be on something. I am not about to be out here feeling like a guest. He was not the only one with conditions. Okay, I said. Then we are going to a lawyer before we close. We do a post-nup so everything is clear. Who invested what? What happens if things go left? I am not about to buy a house and then be homeless because some judge does not understand our situation. He frowned. You really think we going to divorce? I think people change and life happens, I said. And I think clarity is kindness. For both of us. He did not like it. But when I showed him story after story of women who walked away from marriages with nothing but a duffel bag and some photos while their ex kept the house they had paid for, he stopped arguing. Fine, he said. We get a post-nup, but it goes both ways. Of course, I said. I am not trying to rob you. I am trying to protect me. We started the pre-approval process. My coworker, Jason, ran the numbers and laughed when he saw my file. Girl, your debt-to-income ratio is cleaner than my kitchen, he said. You are golden. Your husband, maybe not so much. But if we run it with just you, you are good. I signed piles of disclosures. We went house hunting with a realtor who had patience and flat shoes. We saw ugly kitchens and bad floor plans, and one house with a smell so strong I still do not have words for it. Then we found it. A pale gray 2-story on a quiet street with crepe myrtles in the front yard, and a little porch big enough for a bench and a plant. Inside, it had 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, an open kitchen with white cabinets and a big island, and a master closet that made me want to lie down in the middle of it and cry. This is it, Marcus said, spinning around in the living room. I can see football games in here. Game nights. Holidays. I could see more. My mother sleeping in the guest room without having to listen to upstairs neighbors stomp. Meals cooked in a kitchen that was ours, not borrowed. Walls where the paint colors were our choice, not landlord beige. We put in an offer. The sellers accepted. When we told our families, the reactions were educational. My mother screamed in my ear over the phone. "Baby, you did it!" she cried. "You really did it. I am so proud of you. I am proud of you all." Miss Evelyn's first question was, "So when do I move in?" She laughed, but she did not sound like she was playing. Marcus joked right back. "Ma, I told you, your room going to be on the first floor so you do not have to climb steps," he said. "Need to make sure my real landlord is comfortable." He winked at me like it was a harmless joke. It did not feel harmless. A joke repeated that often becomes a script. The first big crack showed up at the lawyer's office. We sat in a conference room with a black woman named Attorney Lopez, recommended by one of my coworkers. She had braids pulled into a bun and a voice like velvet over steel. "I understand you two are buying a home using a special first-time buyer program," she said, "and you want to be clear on ownership and obligations so there are no surprises down the road." "Yes," I said. "The mortgage will be in my name only. We want to make sure if something happens, we do not end up fighting in court about who paid what." She nodded. "We can do a marital property agreement that spells everything out," she said. "We can also be intentional about how we hold title. For example, you can be the sole owner with rights of survivorship, or you can own as joint tenants, or as community property with right of survivorship. Texas gives us options." Marcus shifted. "Her name is on the loan," he said. "But I'm not trying to be nobody's tenant." She smiled faintly. "You would not be," she said. "The deed and the note are separate things. We can add you to the deed if that is what you both want. However, based on what Tasha told me about the down payment coming from her separate savings, I am going to suggest we be very explicit about that being her separate contribution." He frowned. "Why?" "So that if, God forbid, you two separate," she said gently, "Tasha does not lose the entire benefit of what she has saved. The court would follow the terms of this agreement." He slumped back. "Feels like you planning the divorce before we even close," he muttered. "I am planning clarity," she said. "That way, if you never divorce, this paper just gathers dust and everybody stays happy. And if something does go wrong, we reduce the chances of a messy, expensive fight." We talked through scenarios: death, disability, debt. It was not romantic, it was real. In the end, we agreed. I would be the sole borrower on the mortgage. We would both be on the deed, but the agreement would state clearly that I was contributing the majority of the down payment from premarital separate funds. If we ever split, I would be entitled to reimbursement of that contribution, plus a percentage of any appreciation. Marcus signed. I exhaled. Then Miss Evelyn found out. We were at her house a week later when Marcus casually mentioned, "Yeah, we met with this lawyer lady. She had us signing all kinds of papers about the house." Miss Evelyn's head snapped up from the pot she was stirring. "What lawyer?" she asked. "What papers?" "Just something Tasha wanted," he said, shrugging. "Some agreement about her down payment and all that." She turned to me. "You making my son sign papers like he is a stranger?" she demanded. "Over a house he going to be paying for with you?" "He is not a stranger," I said calmly. "He is my husband. That is why I want us both to know what we are agreeing to. It protects both of us," she scoffed. "Protect you from what?" she said. "My son is not some bum. He not trying to take nothing from you. You should be protecting him. They love to see a black man with something and then take it from him. Now you helping them." "Ma, chill," Marcus said, half laughing. "It is not like that." She kept her eyes on me. "So his name on the house too?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "On the deed." "And mine?" she said. I blinked. "Excuse me?" "My name," she repeated. "If something happened to you all, I do not want nobody pushing me out of the house my son bought me." I actually laughed, thinking she was making another one of her half-jokes. "Miss Evelyn, This is me and Marcus's home, I said. If anything happens, we have life insurance. You will not be homeless. But your name does not need to be on the deed for that. Her eyes flashed. After all I did, she said, her voice rising. You going to put me out in the cold? No one said that, I replied. We are not even moved in yet. She turned to Marcus. You promised me, she said. You told me when you got your house, I would never have to answer to no landlord again. Now you letting your wife treat me like a guest. Marcus looked caught. Ma, you still can stay with us, he said quickly. I told you you could have a room. In my house, I cut in. Stay with us in my house. Yes, that is what we said. He shot me a look. Babe, come on, he said. You making it sound like it is just your place. I felt something in my chest twist. It is, I said quietly. On paper. Because that is the only way we got approved for the program. We talked about this. He rubbed his face. Let us not fight in front of Ma, he muttered. But the fight had already started. From that day, Miss Evelyn's comments went from passive to sharp. This kitchen nice, she would say when we sent her pictures during renovations. I want my spices right here, and my pots in that drawer. When we went to pick hardware, she rejected every handle I liked. That too modern, she sniffed. We need something classic. This, my forever kitchen. Our forever kitchen. One day, when we were at the new house checking on the painter, I heard her in the hallway telling Marcus, You need to make sure my name on that paper. If Tasha get mad and put me out where I am supposed to go. I stepped out of the bedroom before he could answer. You are not being put out of anywhere, I said. You are being invited in if we decide it is healthy, but you do not get to outrank me in the home I am paying for. She looked at me like I had slapped her. You see how she talked to me now? She said to Marcus. You better fix that before we move in. I looked at him. He looked at the floor. The worst part is, I still loved him. I still believed we could find a way to blend our families, our expectations, our lives. I thought, once we are in the house, things will settle. People will calm down. We moved in on a humming hot Saturday in July. Friends and cousins helped carry boxes. My mother cried again when she walked into the empty living room and looked up at the high ceilings. You did this, baby, she whispered, hugging me. Look at God. Look at you. Miss Evelyn showed up late with a car full of food and commented on everything. These stairs steep, she said. I told you I need a first-floor room. You trying to kill me? That room is an office, I said. You have the guest room upstairs for now. She sniffed. We will see about that. Maybe she thought I did not hear. Maybe she wanted me to. The first week in the new house, I was too tired and too happy to care. I woke up every morning and stood at the bedroom window, looking out at our quiet street, feeling like I had finally stepped into a life that was mine and not borrowed. Then, little things started to pile up. I would come home from work and find Miss Evelyn's shoes by the door. Not, I came over to drop something off shoes, house shoes, fuzzy slippers, the kind you leave where you live. Hey, baby, she would call from the kitchen. I started the greens already. Your husband said you was tired, so I came to help. On the surface, it was sweet, until help turned into rearranging my cabinets. The pots do not go there, I said one evening, reaching for a pan and finding my entire system flipped. I keep them under the stove. That do not make sense, she said, not looking up from the sink. I am the one who is in here most of the time. I need them where I can reach. You are not the only one in here, I said. She chuckled like I was joking. Another day, I opened the fridge and saw plastic containers labeled Ma's Shelf in permanent marker. Why is this here? I asked Marcus later, pointing. He shrugged. Ma likes to keep her stuff separate so y'all do not get confused. Confused about what? I said. It is our fridge, in our house. He sighed. Tasha, she is just trying to feel at home. You know she has not had her own place like this. Let her have her shelf. It is not her own place, I said. It is ours. She still has her lease at the duplex. For now, he muttered. I paused. What does that mean? He hesitated just long enough to make my stomach tighten. "I am just saying," he said slowly, "her landlord talking about selling. She might have to move sooner than she thought. That is all." "And you think she is moving here?" I said. He rubbed the back of his neck. "I mean, where else she going to go?" he said. "She on a fixed income. You know how these rents are. We got the space. You got the big heart." "That big heart does not mean I signed up for a permanent roommate," I said, "especially one who thinks she outranks me in my own kitchen." He frowned. "You do not like my mama now?" "I did not say that," I replied. "I am saying we never sat down and talked about her living with us full time. There is a difference between you always welcome and this your house." He kissed my forehead like that was the end of the conversation. "It is going to be fine," he said. "Stop worrying." But the thing about living with someone who believes they own the space is you do not need a formal move-in date. They just occupy. One Saturday morning, I woke up to the sound of a vacuum downstairs. When I came out of the bedroom, I nearly tripped over a plastic storage bin in the hallway. "What is this?" I asked, lifting the lid. Inside were framed photos, folded towels, and a stack of old church programs. Miss Evelyn's Life, in a box, halfway up my stairs. I followed the sound of the vacuum to the guest room. She was in there, sweatband on, rearranging furniture. "Good morning," I said slowly. "What is going on?" She switched off the vacuum and wiped her forehead. "I had to get my things up here," she said. "Them stairs is no joke. I told Marcus, once I bring this up, I am not taking it back down." My heart thudded. "Your things," I repeated. "My landlord already got somebody looking at that old place," she said, shrugging. "I am not about to wait and be on the street." My son said, "Ma, pack up and come home." So here I am. She spread her arms like she was on a stage. "Your son did not talk to me about that," I said, my voice flat. She rolled her eyes. "Y'all married. I do not know why everything has to be a board meeting," she said. "You know I am coming here eventually. This is my house too." The word hit again. My. I did not explode. I walked back to the bedroom, closed the door, and sat on the edge of the bed, my hands shaking. Marcus walked out of the bathroom, towel around his waist, humming. "Why is your mother moving boxes into the guest room?" I asked. He froze. "Babe," he started. "Answer the question," I said. He exhaled. "Her landlord sold the place faster than expected," he said. "She got 30 days to get out. I told her she could come here while she figures things out." "And by figures things out, you mean?" I asked. He rubbed his temples. "Can we not do this like an interrogation?" he said. "That is my mother. Where is she supposed to go?" "We could have looked for a senior apartment complex," I said. "We could have found her a small rental. We could have, I do not know, talked about options that do not involve her moving into a house we just barely got settled in." "She cannot afford all that," he said. "You know her situation." "What I know," I replied, "is that you made a unilateral decision about who lives in this house, a house that is legally my responsibility." He looked at me like I had said something offensive. "There you go again," he said, "throwing that in my face." "It is not in your face," I said. "It is facts. If something goes wrong with this loan, the bank calls me, not you. But you are out here promising rooms like you built this place with your bare hands." He glared. "If you was not so controlling, it would not matter whose name on what," he snapped. "We supposed to be one. You always making it mine and yours." I swallowed my anger. "We had a whole meeting with Attorney Lopez about this," I said, keeping my voice level. "We signed an agreement you read word for word. Do you remember that, or was that just paperwork to you?" He went quiet. "Ma is staying," he said finally. "At least for a while. I am not putting her out." A part of me wanted to say, "Fine, then both of you can leave." But I was not ready. Not yet. Instead, I said, "Then we are going to have rules." He groaned. "Here you go." "Yes," I said, "here I go. Because if your mother is going to live here, she is going to respect that I am not a guest. And neither is she. She is family staying in my home." He did not like the phrasing. I did not soften it. We sat down that night at the kitchen table. Me, Marcus, and Miss Evelyn. I had written bullet points on a notepad like I was preparing for a staff meeting. "First," I said, "we need to be clear on time frame. You can stay here while you look for a new place, but this is not open-ended. We will help you find something, and we are aiming for within 6 months." Miss Evelyn narrowed her eyes. "Oh, you putting dates on my head?" she said. I did not know the welcome mat had fine print. "This is not about not wanting you," I said. "It is about making sure we do not end up in a situation none of us want. Sharing a house long-term changes things. I need us to be honest about that." She snorted. "I thought I raised a man, not a boarder," she muttered. Marcus shifted. "Ma," he said, "just listen." "Second," I continued, "you are not on the lease or the mortgage. That means you do not make big decisions about the house without talking to us. No giving out our address like it is yours for mail. No inviting people to stay long-term without asking." Her lips pursed. "So I am good enough to cook, clean, and watch y'all house when you gone, but not good enough to call it home?" she said. "You can call it home while you are here," I said, "but it is not yours to manage like you own it." Her eyes flashed. "Third," I added, "I am asking that we stop joking in front of people like this is your house or you the real landlord. That might feel funny, but it confuses the situation. People repeat things. It can cause problems down the line." She leaned back, crossing her arms. "You mean you do not want nobody thinking your man did something for his mama before he did something for you?" she said. "I see what this is. Jealousy." "It is not jealousy," I said calmly. "It is clarity." Marcus looked between us, uncomfortable. "Can we just agree everybody respect everybody?" he said. "I do not want to fight about words." But we were not fighting about words. We were fighting about what the words pointed to. Miss Evelyn moved in fully within 3 weeks. Her couch did not fit in our living room, so she put it in the garage for later. Her bedroom set replaced the guest room furniture I had carefully picked. Every empty corner became storage for another piece of her past. She started introducing herself to the neighbors. "I am Marcus's mama," she would say. "This his house. He got it for me so I can finally rest." I heard it one day through the open window and had to grip the counter so hard my knuckles went white. Rena came by one afternoon and found Miss Evelyn sitting on the porch shelling peas. "Hey, Miss Evelyn," Rena said politely. "House looks beautiful." "Thank you, baby," she said. "My boy really came through for his mama." I told him, "When I die, this going to be yours. Tasha just passing through." Rena told me that later in a whisper while we washed dishes. "You know that is not how the paperwork looks, right?" she said. "Oh, I know," I replied. "I was there when we signed." "You sure you okay?" she asked, searching my face. "I am not okay," I said, "but I am paying attention." By the time we set the date for the housewarming, my nerves were already stretched thin. It was Marcus's idea. "We got to show people," he said, eyes shining. "We got to celebrate getting out the struggle." I was proud, too. Despite everything, I had dreamed of this. I wanted my mother to come and sit at my table and not worry if we were going to get a notice on the door. I wanted my coworkers to see the life I had built outside the office, but the way the planning went told me exactly whose story this night was going to tell if I did not intervene. Miss Evelyn took over the menu. "We not serving no store-bought anything," she declared. "I am cooking. This housewarming going to be a testimony. People going to see what God did for me." "For us," I corrected gently. She ignored me. She called her pastor and asked if the church choir could come do a few selections. She invited half her congregation. She invited cousins I had never met. She invited neighbors from her old block. She told Marcus, loud enough for me to hear, "We going to pack this house out." At one point, I found her on the phone in the kitchen saying, "Yeah, baby, my son finally bought me a house. You got to come see it. Yes, girl, my name on it. You know I do not move nowhere, my name not on." I paused in the doorway. "Your name is not on it," I said quietly once she hung up. She jumped. "You like creeping up on people," she snapped. "I just heard you tell someone your name is on the house," I said. "It is not. It is in spirit," she said. "Paperwork do not mean nothing when God already signed off." "Paperwork means everything when a bank is involved," I replied. She rolled her eyes. "You stay worried about them white folks' papers," she muttered. "I got the promise of the Lord and my son." I looked at her. "And I have a signed agreement and a loan number," I said. "That combination beats your promise every time." She smirked. "We will see," she said. The Thursday before the housewarming, I checked the mail and saw an envelope from the county. Inside was the property tax statement. Owner of record, Tasha Williams. Marcus's name nowhere on the front page. Miss Evelyn's, obviously, nowhere in sight. I stood at the kitchen island and stared at it, my heartbeat slowly evening out. The world could call this Evelyn's house all it wanted. The tax man knew the truth. Something in me clicked into place. I pulled out the copy of our marital property agreement from the file drawer. I read every clause again. What happens to the house if we separate? What happens if one of us dies? What happens if the house is sold? The lines about my down payment being separate property might as well have been neon. And if you are listening to this and realizing the only thing standing between you and being pushed out of what you built is a piece of paper you have not read in years, hit that like button and subscribe. It helps YouTube recommend my revenge stories and family stories to other people, because too many of us sign documents we do not fully understand and then get surprised when somebody tries to rewrite the story over our signatures. When I went to bed that night, Marcus was already asleep, snoring softly. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, rehearsing what I would and would not tolerate at our housewarming. I decided 3 things. 1, if somebody tried to erase me in my own home, I would not swallow it this time. 2, I would not be the one screaming. I would let the paper talk. 3, if Marcus chose his mother's fantasy over our reality, I would not stay married to him in a house she thought was hers. The night of the housewarming, the house smelled like every good memory I had ever had. Jambalaya bubbling on the stove, mac and cheese in the oven, candles lit, people's voices filling the rooms, bouncing off the walls that had finally seen more than just us. My mother arrived with a pound cake and eyes shining. "Look at you, homeowner," she whispered, hugging me. "You really did it, baby." "Thank you, Ma," I said, breathing in her familiar detergent and vanilla smell. "Stay close to me tonight, okay?" She pulled back, searching my face. "What is wrong?" she asked. "Nothing," I lied. "Just watch." Rena came in with a bottle of champagne and a side-eye for Marcus. "You good?" she mouthed. I nodded once. Miss Evelyn floated through the crowd like the lady of the manor. She wore a sparkly top and a long skirt, her hair done, earrings swinging. Every time someone complimented the house, she said, "Thank you, baby. My son really outdid himself for his mama." I heard her tell someone near the kitchen. I told him, "Make sure my room big enough," and he did. That boy love his mama. Marcus did not correct her. When the living room was full and the noise reached that level where it felt like the walls were humming, somebody started clinking a glass. "A toast!" one of Marcus's cousins yelled. "Housewarming toast!" People gathered around the island and the edge of the living room. Kids peered between legs. The choir folks quieted down. Marcus went to the counter, grabbed the champagne bottle Rena had brought and popped it. Foam fizzed over the rim. He laughed, poured into his own glass, then into Miss Evelyn's, then into mine like he was hosting a show. He stood in the middle of the room, lifted his glass, and cleared his throat. I felt my stomach clench. "First of all, thank everybody for coming out," he said, dimples on full display. "Y'all know it has been a long road. We went from roaches and radiators to this here." People laughed. He pointed up at the ceiling like God was up there nodding in approval. "I just want to say," he continued, "I could not have done any of this without the 2 most important women in my life." He looked at me briefly. Then he turned to his mother. "To the real owner of this house," he said, voice loud enough to cut through every conversation. "My mother." He pointed at her like he was presenting a prize on television. The room erupted. Cousins whooped. Cousins. Church folks clapped. Someone shouted, "All right now, Miss Evelyn." The choir leader started humming something that sounded suspiciously like, "Won't he do it?" Miss Evelyn put her free hand to her chest, eyes shining with fake modesty. My mother went still beside me. Rena's mouth dropped open. And me? I felt a calm I had not expected slide over me like a coat. It was like the moment on a roller coaster when you stop climbing and realize you are about to drop. There is no getting off. You just decide whether you are going to scream with fear or with freedom. I set my glass down. Marcus was still talking. "Y'all know my mama raised me and my brother by herself," he said. "She worked 2-3 jobs. We lived in apartments, but she always said, 'One day my boy going to put me in a house. So, Ma, we here.'" He spread his arms wide. "This your house." He meant it. He was not joking. Everybody cheered again. Miss Evelyn dabbed at her eyes with a napkin. "Say something, Ma," someone yelled. She stepped forward, still glowing. "I just want to thank God," she began, "and my son for being a man of his word. I tell people all the time, this house is mine. I might not have signed the paper, but heaven already recorded my name. That is enough," I said. I did not shout. I did not grab the glass out of her hand. I just let my voice slice through the cheers the way his had cut through my dignity. The room quieted a little, like people were not sure if I was part of the toast or the interruption. Marcus glanced at me, confused. "Babe, we in the middle of—" "I know," I said. "And since we are in the middle of telling the story of this house, I would like to make sure we tell the true one." I stepped forward until I was standing between him and Miss Evelyn. Up close, I could see the flicker of irritation in his eyes, the warning in hers. I smiled. Not sweetly, clearly. "Thank you all for being here," I said, turning slightly so I could see as many faces as possible. "This means a lot to me. My whole life, I watched my mother move from rental to rental, praying for stability. So when we signed the closing papers on this place, it was one of the proudest days of my life." I heard my mother sniff behind me. Marcus tried to slide an arm around my waist. I stepped out of reach. "And I want to honor the truth tonight," I said. "Because truth matters, especially when it comes to money and ownership." A murmur rippled through the room. Marcus laughed nervously. "Baby, come on," he said under his breath. "We just joking. You know what I meant." I looked at him. "Do I?" I asked, still smiling. "Let us make sure everyone else does too." I reached under the kitchen island, where I had tucked a clear plastic folder earlier, just in case I needed it. I pulled out the first page. The deed. On a normal day, it was just paper. Tonight, it was a mirror. "Since we are talking about who this house belongs to," I said, lifting it, "I would like to read from the people who actually decide that. Harris County and First National Bank." Rena covered her mouth. Miss Evelyn shifted, her smile cracking. "Tasha, what are you doing?" Marcus hissed. "Speaking facts," I said. I read aloud. "Owner of record, Tasha Williams," I said. "Borrower on note, Tasha Williams. Co-owner added to deed, Marcus Brown." I looked up. "I do not see Evelyn Brown anywhere on here," I said. "Do y'all?" A few people chuckled, nervous. Miss Evelyn's face flushed. "That do not mean nothing," she snapped. "Paper can say what it want. This my son's house." "It means everything," I said. "Because if the bank comes calling, they are not knocking on your door. They are knocking on mine. If the taxes do not get paid, they are not sending you a notice. They are sending me one. That means this is not your house. It is our home, but legally, it is mine to protect." Marcus's jaw clenched. "You making a scene?" he muttered. "You made the scene," I said quietly. "When you pointed at your mother and called her the real owner in front of half the city?" I felt every eye on us. I could have stopped there. But for years, I had swallowed things so other people could stay comfortable. Tonight, I was done. You all have heard my husband joke a lot these past few months, I said, raising my voice enough to carry. About this being his mama's house, about her being the landlord, about me just being along for the ride. Some of you might have even repeated it, laughed, shared it. I held up the deed. This is the reality, I said. I saved for 10 years for the down payment on this place. I protected my credit like it was my child. When the bank needed a borrower, they approved me. When we signed a marital property agreement, it spelled out exactly who invested what. This was not a gift from a son to a mother. This was a dream I bled for. My mother was crying openly now. "Baby," she whispered, "tell it." Miss Evelyn stepped forward. "So what you saying?" she demanded. "You going to put me out after all this? You going to try to embarrass me in front of my friends?" "I am saying," I replied, "I will not be erased in my own house." I turned to her fully. "You are welcome here as family," I said, "but you are not the owner. You are not the landlord, and you will no longer introduce this place as your house, like my name is not on every single bill." She scoffed. "You cannot tell me what to say," she said. "People know what this is. My boy bought this for me." Marcus opened his mouth, but whatever he was going to say died when he saw my face. "Did you buy this house for your mother?" I asked him, voice low. He swallowed. "I bought this house for my family," he said. "That includes my mother." "That is not what you just said," I replied. "You just dedicated it to her like a plaque on a church pew." Someone in the back muttered, "Phew." I looked at the crowd. "I know this is uncomfortable," I said. "Black families do not like talking about money and property in public. We would rather pretend the Lord will sort it out. But I work in mortgages. I have seen what happens when we let jokes and assumptions replace clarity. People end up homeless while somebody else sits in a house they did not contribute to because the paperwork was never honored." I placed the deed on the counter. "So, from tonight on, let it be clear," I said. "This house belongs, legally, to me. It is our marital home as long as this marriage exists. My mother is a guest, my mother-in-law is a guest, and if anyone wants to tell the story, tell it right. Tasha bought a house and let Marcus and them live there." The room exhaled one stunned, collective breath. Then somebody in the back, an auntie from my side, said, "Well, amen to that," and started clapping. It was slow at first, then my mother joined in, then Rena, then a few cousins who frankly never liked Miss Evelyn's attitude jumped in too. Not everyone clapped. The church folks looked scandalized. Some of Marcus's cousins looked like they wanted to sink into the floor. Miss Evelyn's eyes flashed like she might lunge across the island. Marcus grabbed her arm. "Ma, chill," he said tightly. She jerked away. "You going to let her talk to me like that?" she demanded. "After everything I did for you? You would not even be here if I did not push you out my body." "Correct," I said. "And that debt was paid when you raised him. This house is not a womb extension." Someone choked on a laugh. Marcus turned on me. "You always got to have the last word," he snapped. "You made your point. Happy now? You embarrassed me. You embarrassed my mother. Congratulations." I looked at him. "I am not happy," I said. "But I am done pretending." The rest of the night moved in a weird, lopsided way. Some guests made excuses and left early, clearly uncomfortable. Others stayed, eating and talking in lower voices, glancing at us like we were live entertainment. The choir folks huddled near the door, whispering. Miss Evelyn went upstairs and slammed the guest room door so hard a picture in the hallway tilted. Marcus disappeared onto the back patio with his cousins, where I could hear the low murmur of his anger. I helped my mother wrap leftovers. "You sure you safe here, baby?" she asked softly at the sink. "Because if you need to come stay with me for a while until y'all figure it out..." I smiled weakly. "Thank you, Ma," I said. "Let me try one more thing first." After the last guest left and the house was finally quiet, Marcus came in from the patio, smelling like smoke and frustration. "You showed out tonight," he said, slamming the sliding door. "I told the truth," I replied, stacking plates. "You could have pulled me aside," he said. "You could have talked to me like a wife, not tried to castrate me in front of everybody." "If I had pulled you aside," I said, "you would have told me I was overreacting and then gone right back to calling your mother the real owner 5 minutes later. You do not hear me unless other people are listening." He flinched. "That is not true," he said. "Name one time I told you I was uncomfortable with something your mother said about this house and you actually backed me up," I said. "Just one." He opened his mouth, closed it. "Exactly," I said. "You like being the hero in her story more than you like being a partner in mine." "That is foul," he muttered. "What is foul is you standing in a house I bled for, pointing at your mother like I am the maid," I said, my voice finally rising. "What is foul is you letting her introduce herself as the owner to everyone who walks in here while you grin. What is foul is you worrying more about her embarrassment than my erasure." He stared at me, jaw tight. "So what now?" he asked. "You going to serve her eviction papers?" "Yes," I said. He blinked. "You serious?" "I am," I said. "I talked to Attorney Lopez yesterday." His eyes widened. "You talked to that lawyer again?" he snapped. "Behind my back?" "I called the woman we both hired to protect us," I said, "and I asked her what my options were if a person who is not on my lease, my deed, or my mortgage is claiming ownership and making decisions in my home." He laughed, harsh. "You really going to make this legal?" he said. "It already is legal," I replied. "I am just honoring it." I wiped my hands on a towel, went to my bag, and pulled out an envelope. "This is a 30-day notice," I said. "Not a sheriff at the door, not a suitcase on the porch. A notice. She has a month to find somewhere else. We will help with first month's rent if she wants. We will help her look. But she cannot stay here past that." He stared at the envelope like it was a snake. "You hand that to her. You can forget about a marriage," he said. I met his eyes. "If the condition of this marriage is me surrendering my house and my self-respect to your mother," I said softly, "then we already do not have one." He shook his head, pacing. "You cold," he muttered. "I did not know you had this in you." "You told me that once before," I said. "At your parents' house, on Christmas. Right before I moved money you did not respect out of your reach." He stopped. "This is different," he said. "No," I replied. "It is the same lesson. Different setting. I will not fund my own disrespect." He stared at me for a long time. Then he snatched the envelope out of my hand. "Fine," he said. "You want to be the bad guy? You give it to her. I am not going to be the one to break my mama's heart." "That is the thing, Marcus," I said. "Her heart is not broken. Her pride might be, but that is not the same." He stormed upstairs. I heard him knock on the guest room door. "Ma," he called. "Open up. Tasha want to talk to you." There was a pause. "Tell that girl I do not want to hear her mouth," Miss Evelyn shouted back. "I know what she going to say. This my house, this my deed. She can keep it. I will go stay in a shelter before I let her talk down to me." My stomach twisted. I walked up the stairs slowly, envelope in hand. "Miss Evelyn," I said through the door, careful to keep my voice calm. "Can you open the door, please?" Silence. Then the click of the lock. The door opened a crack. Her eyes were red, makeup smudged. "You happy?" she said. "You got what you wanted. You made me look like a fool." "I did not make you say those things," I replied. "I just refused to co-sign them." I held out the envelope. "This is a 30-day notice," I said. "It is not punishment. It is a boundary. You cannot live here and call it your house. That is not sustainable for any of us." Her lip curled. "So you putting me out?" she said. "I am asking you to find a place that is truly yours," I said. "We will help. But yes, you cannot stay here long term." She snatched the envelope. "You will not sleep," she muttered. "You think God going to bless you after this? You think this house going to stand? You watch. Everything you built going to crumble." I felt a flash of hurt. Then I remembered the property tax bill in my drawer, the agreement in my file, the paycheck hitting my account every 2 weeks. "No," I said quietly. "What I built is going to stand. That is why I am protecting it." She slammed the door. Marcus leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "You good?" he asked sarcastically. "You feel powerful now?" "I feel sad," I said. "And relieved. Same time." He shook his head and walked away. The next 30 days were tense. Miss Evelyn alternated between icy silence and loud phone calls where she told anyone who would listen that I had kicked her out of her own house. Some people believed her version, some did not. Me and Marcus barely spoke except about logistics. I sent listings for senior apartments and small rentals to both of them. She ignored them. He skimmed them. Finally, my mother stepped in. She showed up one Saturday with a folder. "Miss Evelyn," she said, standing in the guest room doorway. "I heard you looking for a place." Miss Evelyn sniffed. "I heard your daughter putting me out," she said. My mother did not flinch. "My daughter is enforcing the boundaries y'all agreed to when she bought this house," she said. "I know it hurts, but I also know what it feels like to be at the mercy of landlords and other people's decisions. It is not good for anybody. Not you. Not her." She handed her the folder. "I found a few places near your church," she said. "Affordable senior communities, bus routes, some have activities, gardens. You deserve a place with your name on the mailbox, not just your voice echoing in somebody else's home." Miss Evelyn's face softened for a second, then hardened again. "I do not need your pity," she said, "or your daughter's." "This is not pity," my mother said. "This is an invitation to stand on your own feet. You did it before. You can do it again." In the end, it was not my speeches or the envelope that moved her. It was the quiet reality of logistics. The 30 days came and went. Attorney Lopez told me, "If she refuses to leave, you have the right to file an eviction. But I always recommend starting with conversation and support. Court is messy." I did not want court. I wanted peace. Marcus finally convinced his mother to apply to one of the senior apartments my mother had found. "They have Bible study nights," he said, "and bingo, and a shuttle to the grocery store. You will make new friends, Ma." "And leave you here with that girl?" she asked. He shrugged. "You the one said you do not want to be nowhere people do not want you," he said. "She gave you 30 days, we down to 5. I cannot change that. I agreed to these papers too. Maybe I should not have, but I did." She looked at him like he had betrayed her. "You choosing her over me," she said. He swallowed. "I am choosing not to be homeless," he replied. "Without her, there is no house to argue about." Those words would echo in my head later. Without her, there is no house. Say it louder for the people in the back. On the last day of the notice period, a moving truck pulled up. Miss Evelyn had found a small one-bedroom in a senior complex not far from our subdivision. The rent was subsidized. The building had an elevator. The lobby smelled like coffee and lemon cleaner. She packed angrily, muttering under her breath. I helped carry boxes to the truck anyway. "Why you acting like you care?" she snapped once when we crossed paths on the stairs. "Because I do," I said simply. "I do not want you on the street. I just do not want you living here under a delusion." She shook her head. "You going to regret this," she said. "Maybe," I replied, "but I already regret not speaking up sooner." When the last box was loaded and the truck pulled away, the house felt bigger, quieter, lonelier too. Me and Marcus stood in the empty guest room. Her perfume still hung faintly in the air. "You got what you wanted," he said. "You queen of the castle now." "It is not about being queen," I said. "It is about being recognized as the one who built the castle's foundation." He looked at me for a long time. "I do not know if I can get past this," he admitted. "Her crying on the phone, her telling people I let you disrespect her, It is a lot. I do not know if I can get past you putting her over me in my own home, I said. So we are even. We tried. For a few months we went to counseling, with a real therapist, not just a church elder. The therapist asked hard questions. Marcus, why is it so important that your mother feel like this house is hers? She asked once. He shrugged, eyes shiny. She sacrificed, he said. She went without so I could have things. I promised her I would give her a house. It feels like I failed if she does not claim this as hers. But did you give her a house? The therapist asked. Or did your wife buy a home you now share? He looked at his hands. Tasha always talking about her money, he muttered. Tasha talks about reality, the therapist said. If we are going to move forward, you both have to honor what is true, not just what feels good. We had good days. We had days where we cooked together in the kitchen Miss Evelyn had tried to redesign. We had nights where we sat on the porch and watched the sun go down, the quiet of the street settling around us like a blanket. We also had days where every conversation felt like walking through a field of broken glass. He would say something about my house, and I would stiffen. I would bring up a boundary, and he would hear it as an attack on his mother. In one session, the therapist asked us a question that cracked everything open. What would it look like, she said, if this house was not a prize in a tug-of-war between your mother and your wife, but a tool you both use to build the life you want? I knew my answer. It would look like both of us respecting the paperwork we signed, I said. Making decisions together. Not promising rooms without asking. Not giving away credit that does not belong to us. Marcus was quiet. When she turned to him, he shrugged. I do not know, he said. Maybe like my mama coming over for Sunday dinner and not feeling like she got to ask permission to sit on the couch. It was small. It was honest. But after everything, I realized something. I did not just want a husband who tolerated my boundaries. I wanted one who understood why they mattered. 6 months after the housewarming, Attorney Lopez called to check in about an unrelated question I had emailed her. At the end of the call, she said, I hope you know you did the right thing. In whose book? I asked. In the book where Black women stop building generational wealth just to hand the keys to people who do not respect them, she said. In the book where your younger self, the little girl sitting on boxes, finally feels safe. I thought about that girl, 8 years old, watching her mother cry over another move. Older now, standing in a house with stairs and crepe myrtles, holding a deed with her name on it. I do not know if this marriage is going to survive, I admitted. Part of me feels like I blew it up. You drew a line, she said. If the marriage cannot survive your humanity, maybe it was already cracked. A year after the housewarming, me and Marcus signed another set of papers. This time, in a different lawyer's office. We did not make a big scene. No shouting, no plates thrown, just two people who had loved each other but loved different versions of themselves more. In the divorce agreement, the house went to me. It made sense on every level. I was the borrower. I was the one who could comfortably pay the mortgage. Our marital agreement already had most of the framework. He got a payout for the small portion of equity the court recognized as marital. Enough to help him start over in a townhome closer to his mother's new building. When we walked out of the office, he stood on the sidewalk and looked at me. You really chose a house over me, he said softly. I shook my head. I chose myself, I said. The house is just where she lives. He opened his mouth, closed it again, and walked away. Back at home, I stood in the entryway and leaned against the door. The silence was different now. Not tense. Possibility. I walked through every room, touching the walls lightly. In the guest room, I opened the window and let fresh air in, clearing out old perfume and old accusations. I painted one wall a soft, calming color and turned it into a reading room. My mother came to stay some weekends, actually resting instead of worrying. Rena brought wine and gossip. We laughed loud, with no one upstairs clucking her tongue. The kitchen stayed exactly how I had arranged it. Pots under the stove, spices in the drawer by the oven, no Ma's shelf labels. On the anniversary of the housewarming, I did something small that felt huge. I hosted a dinner. Just a few people. My mother, Rena, a couple of coworkers from the bank who had watched me grind for years. No choir, no crowd. Before we ate, my mother lifted her glass. "To my daughter," she said, voice steady, "the real owner of this house." Everyone laughed. I did too. Not because anyone else was being erased this time, but because the truth finally fit in my mouth without bitterness. Later that night, when the dishes were done and the house was quiet again, I sat on the couch and opened my laptop. On the screen was a folder labeled Our Stories. Inside were drafts, my stories, other women's stories, stories of houses and credit and wills and quiet revenge. I clicked New Document and started typing. To the real owner of this house, my mother. That is what my husband said at our housewarming, standing in my living room with a champagne flute in his hand, pointing across the room like he was presenting a game show prize. Only this time, the sentence was mine. I was the one telling it, and I was not a guest in my own life anymore.